There's a white envelope on my doormat. Urgent, stamped in red. I slice it open with a kitchen knife and see my name next to the word guardianship. The hearing is in 48 hours. I'm being declared temporarily incapacitated, pending review. My voice goes, but my memory lights up like an old dispatcher's console. Who, when, why? On the table sits my yellow notepad. I run a nail down the margin. Today, pay insurance. Tomorrow, drive Mrs. Albee to her appointment. Incapacitated, really? I rinse my face with cold water, grab the key ring on its red lanyard, and sit. In the margin, I write one word: who? The answer is almost obvious: Chris. My son. 2 months ago, he brought home Lana Pierce, confident like a TV host, and started talking about putting affairs in order. Safety. Sign a few forms, Mom. I slid the papers to the edge of the table, like a plate of eggs I didn't want, and said, I'd think. They took offense, left, then came back with flowers and syrupy voices. This summons has a deputy clerk's signature. Emergency guardianship, the kind that can strip your bank access in a day while you prove you remember your name. I call Chris. Long rings, voicemail. Chris, it's Mom. I got a notice from court. Call me. I hang up, open the safe in my closet, and take out old checkbooks, my insurance card, and a ceramic owl bank with a cracked wing. I shake out the cash and sort it into envelopes. Small, motor, rainy day. 40 minutes later, I'm in a bank branch off the highway, smelling coffee and air conditioning. I ask for a printout of auto pays and a freeze on all powers of attorney. The teller in a blazer scans her screen and asks who Kay Benton is. Nobody anymore, I say. My hands don't shake. Years of swapping drivers on routes taught me that. But inside, it's hollow. Back home, I sort the mail. Under an insurance letter, a business card slips out of an old book. May Connor, estate's attorney, driver's union referral. The card smells dusty. I dial. On the third ring, a steady young voice answers. I explain everything: the summons, the deadlines, the fear, the paper trail. A truck rumbles somewhere outside. Come today, the voice says. We can file an objection before the registrar closes. I slide the card into my notepad and write, drive, 23 minutes. I feel like myself again. I have a route. On the way, a billboard about caring for seniors turns my stomach. Not the height of the overpass, the word care. Connor's waiting room smells like carbon paper. The lawyer isn't elderly May, but her niece, black hair, sleeves rolled, alert eyes. Aunt May's in the hospital. I'm handling her cases, she says, handing me a blank form. We file the objection, attach copies of policies, prescriptions, and my weekly to-do list. You don't look like someone who can't say her own name, she says. I smile with my lips only. For now. In the hall, I hear, Tuesday, Judge R. Emergency. I note it down the way I used to mark snow, chains, detour. I already carry symbols: red lanyard keys, a yellow pad, an owl bank. I add one more, the envelope itself, glued inside my pad like a hazard tag. Tuesday morning, a small courtroom with wooden benches. The judge's eyes move faster than I used to spot tires on the interstate. Chris and Lana sit to my left. He stares at the table. She smiles like she's selling me a gym membership. They've attached a medical opinion, signed last week. Family doctor. Patient has episodes of forgetfulness, confuses numbers. I remember mixing up sugar and salt at tea 2 weeks ago. We laughed then. Now the laugh is a document. I speak for myself. Short words, like radio commands. I pay my bills. I drive only in daylight. I cook and clean. Last month, I paid property tax and insurance. My notepad lies open like a map. I lay down a dotted route, dates, amounts, signatures. The judge looks up and says that, for your protection, my son will be temporary guardian for 30 days, limited authority. The bench seems higher than my knees. I nod, even though I want to pound the table. Connor's niece leans in. We'll appeal and get an independent evaluation. I nod again. Chris won't meet my eyes. Lana watches too closely, like a barista counting cash. Afterward, I sit in the hallway on a plastic chair and open my pad. My fingers write on their own. Barrier, Stir 1, temporary guardianship, cost, access to accounts. I tape the top of the page, the way I used to mark closed segments of road. I want to cry. Instead, I head to the county recorder. It's cool in there. People whisper like in a library. I request copies of every power of attorney and contract, filed in my name over the last 3 months. The clerk taps a screen and prints a list. Papers appear that I never signed. A POA to deal with my insurance, a notary seal from across town. I take copies and write down the addresses. The paths form a pattern. That evening, I stop by a thrift store for an old metal cash drawer. I want to hear the click. Outside, summer rain. Teen sneakers slap through puddles. Someone eats something greasy from a paper bag. I sit in my car and finally cry. Short, silent, the way grown-ups do. Then I wipe my eyes and call Mrs. Albee. I need your friend from the clinic, the one who knows signatures. Her friend Ruby is an accountant at the insurance desk, where people try not to die in line. We meet at a strip mall diner with bottomless coffee. Ruby studies the doctor's note, snorts. That signature is a stamp, not a hand. I can write that it's suspicious, but I'm not forensics. Suspicious is enough for now, I say. In my pad, barrier, Vertu, fake papers, cost, time. Late that night, a text from Lana. Mom, we just want you safe. Let's not make a scene. The word not slips in like a cheap knife from a discount set. I power off my phone and move the red lanyard keys into my jacket pocket. Tomorrow, independent eval, then court. Also, the notary's address. He stamped at 3 p.m. while I was in the pharmacy line. In dispatch, we called that mismatched time marks. Mismatches save lives. The independent psychiatrist sees me in an office with bamboo blinds and mint gum. He asks questions. I hold on to the handrails of memory like I'm standing on a moving bus. Years of routes, driver IDs, rate changes, last names of dispatchers, solid bricks in a wall. You know where you are, what year it is, and who you trust, he says at the end. I smile for the first time in 3 days. That's progress, I tell him. He promises a report by week's end. That evening, I drive to the address on the registry. The notary whose stamp sits under that POA. A door in a low-rent office park is locked, but the glass advertises paper help, consultations. I peel the flyer off the tape. Lana rounds the corner. She wasn't expecting me. I feel the shadows shift around us. Friends, partners, names kept off paper. She smiles. I suggest the cafe across the street. It's loud, so we can talk half voice. She says, a week or two, and this will blow over. Our generation helps yours. If we list me at your address, insurance gets easier. I stir my coffee and ask, how much does your friend charge to stamp without the person there? She jerks like a cat on wet grass. I don't understand. I set my phone on the table. The recorder's been on since the parking lot. I'll repeat, I say. She goes to the restroom and returns in a new mask. Chris is just afraid you'll burn money on pills and charity. He'd be less afraid if he wasn't burning it on other people's projects, I say. She swallows. The cup trembles. Then the usual words people say when they're caught. Everyone does it. Just a little paperwork? We'll put it back. When I step outside, the recording auto uploads to a cloud folder that Mrs. Albee can access. In the lot, I spot Cameron, the man hovering near Lana these past weeks when they were handling our paperwork. He stares at me like freight you can drop with one quick move. I drive to Adult Protective Services. The corridor smells like disinfectant and hope. I hand a flash drive to a woman named Allison Vega. She listens without interrupting. If this is what I think, we've got similar cases, she says. You'll need to take a risk and sign a formal statement. I nod. Risk is just another kind of road with no shoulder. Chris calls that night. His voice sounds like a stranger. Why did you do this? We were trying to help. I'm not a warehouse without security, I say. He asks for at least utility access. I'll bring cash to the bank. You're making this hard. I hang up. That's the moment the map flips. Before, I tried not to fight. Now I choose the fight, like choosing a dirt detour. Messy, safer. 2 days later, I came home and saw the locks had been changed. A paper bag hung from the handle. Your things, scrawled on it. Inside, 3 sweaters, 2 plates, an old photo. On the porch sat my neighbor, Nan, quiet, with the face of someone who wants to help and knows what help costs. I sat beside her. We watched the garbage truck crawl past, its yellow light slicing the morning. They came with some papers, she said. I tried to object, but I nodded. I'll be at the motel off the interchange. She pushed a pie and some cash into my hands. A loan? Pay me back? I took it. Refusing would have been another kind of humiliation. The motel smelled of cleanser and tired roads. Ice clinked in a plastic bucket like cheap jewelry. In the lobby, a TV played with no sound. A man in work clothes studied a map of bridge repairs. I paid cash. The clerk didn't ask questions. He slid me a key card. Ice is at the end of the hall. The room had a loud wall unit, heavy drapes with a pine print, and carpet that had seen other lives. I lined my cash envelopes along the far edge of the bed like little beacons, copied the totals into my pad, and drew a line through one entry. Barrier, 3, house, cost, night's shelter. On the nightstand, a coupon book promised coffee and hot breakfast from 6 to 9. Funny thing, sometimes a coffee coupon saves a day. I called the bank and asked them to flag unusual transactions and send paper notices, not just texts. Then I called the Homeowners Association. A dry voice told me, changing locks without the owner's consent can lead to a fine. I wrote down the case number. Words helped. They stacked into my pad the way freight stacks into a trailer when you load it slow and square. That night, I almost texted Chris. Take what you wanted, just bring back the key. Almost. I sat on a strange bed in a strange room, counted cash, and caught myself sorting pills for the week, like that was the only thing left to control. I put them back, Monday with Monday. I didn't text him. In dispatch, we taught the new guys. A short cheat becomes a long loss. I turned off the phone and slid it under the pillow, as if that made anything safer. In the morning, I used a coupon for a waffle and instant coffee in a foam cup. I sat by the soda machine and listened to a trucker argue on speaker about delivery windows. My brain began mapping someone else's route on its own. It made me smile. It steadied me. I reached Allison Vega. If there's a storage unit where they keep more than your stuff, that's a hub, she said. Hubs break faster than paperwork. I hung up and went back to my map of storage places. Cheap boxes along the highway, first month free, a sign that says 24/7 security, which means one camera with no sound and a board guard in a ball cap. Around the edges, pawn shops, electronics buyers, cash until payday. Everything you need to quietly steal a life. I drove to a yard with green doors. The guard chewed nuts and watched baseball on his phone. I asked about units under Pierce or Benton. He shrugged, but his eyes flicked toward row C. Guards have their own ethics. Don't interfere, but hint. The door tags looked new. One was blank, just a number. I waited in my car until evening. Water, 2 bars, my pad on my knees. 2 men passed, one in a neon vest, one with keys on a bright lanyard. At 7, a black SUV rolled in. Lana and Cameron lifted a door, carried out 2 cases, the generator and my husband's tool chest. My heart beat up in my throat, like I'd swallowed a tiny hammer. I filmed their faces and the plate. A steady lens is a gift when your hands shake. I sent everything to Allison and to Ruby. 2 addresses like safety lines. Back at the motel, I finally ate Nan's pie, warm and sweet. I washed a spoon in the sink and thought, a home isn't walls. It's a place for the spoon. That truth hit harder than the locks. I wrote in my pad, home, a place for the spoon, and drew a silly smiley so I wouldn't cry. My phone pinged. Allison. Tomorrow. Operation. We'll want a recorded admission. I'll come with an officer. I set the phone down and fell asleep fast for the first time in days. A short sleep, like before a long haul. Morning again. We met on the big storage lot. Allison wore a jean jacket, hair in a knot, a small service patch on her sleeve. An officer waited in an unmarked car. The radio murmured to itself. The plan was simple. I bait, they open, we record. While I waited, an older man struggled to feed a bill into the payment kiosk. I helped flatten the corner. The machine swallowed it and printed his receipt. He thanked me with a nod. A brass tag on his keychain shook. I'd seen 100 like it on drivers coming off a run. The sight grounded me better than prayer. I texted Lana. I'm ready to sign temporary access and hand over my husband's coin rolls if we do it now. I have cash. Money speaks louder than speeches. She arrived fast, alone, in a sporty jacket, and that "we'll fix it" smile. I took her elbow, my voice neutral. One condition. We start with your unit. I want to see how you're keeping my things safe. Her hand moved before her mind did. She pulled out a fob. The door rolled up with a rusty cough. Inside, my cases and other people's boxes. Kitchen, meds, school, winter. She saw I wasn't surprised and tried to slam the door. The officer was already there, calm and firm, introducing himself. Allison opened a folder and clicked on her recorder. We're documenting, she said. Lana cracked almost at once, but Cameron slid out from the next row like a shadow sniffing at light. He raised his voice about family business and airing laundry. I said nothing. Behind him, a body cam chirped. He learned the rules too late. While the officer inventoried the contents, Lana talked faster than she could think. He set it up. The stamps are a service. Chris just needed utilities. I caught the nodes, names, days, amounts. They fit like a freeway map, where they blocked my lane, where they took the ramp. At one point, Lana tried to fold a check into my palm, a reflex from a life of expediting. I tucked it back into her pocket. I don't need your gas, I said, flat. She understood. A forklift beeped. The driver pinched a turn and caused a tiny traffic jam. Horn, hand signals, impatience. In that second, a woman in her 70s came out of a far unit with a tiny dog in a carrier. She recognized the tool store sticker on my case. Her husband used to shop there. Our eyes met. For the first time, I felt it fully. This wasn't just my mess. It was a knot of stolen rooms. My anger hardened into something useful. Quiet metal that cuts chains without noise. That evening, we were back in court. Connor's niece brought a clean bundle, a motion to end guardianship, the independent doctor's report, the storage inventory, a request to protect the recording. The judge flipped, asked a few questions, and agreed. He lifted the temporary guardianship and opened a separate case on the notary stamps. I breathed like I'd topped a hill. One more push and flat road ahead. Chris waited by the door, pale. He opened his mouth. I raised my hand. Tomorrow at 9, bring the keys. No speeches. No scolding. Procedure like dispatch. That night, I returned to my kitchen. The house smelled like floor cleaner and quiet. I scrubbed the counters like a surgeon cleans steel, set the jar of screws on the table, put the owl bank on the shelf, and laid out my husband's old garage plan beside my pad. For a minute, the lights flickered. Line work somewhere. I stood in the dark and counted to 10, the way I taught new drivers when their headlights failed. The lights came back. I wrote, big set piece, done, next, paper war, and under it, cost, my son. We met at the storage lot in the morning. Allison in her jean jacket, hair pinned up, a small badge patch on her sleeve. The officer sat in an unmarked car, the radio whispering. The plan was short. I lure, we document, they open on their own. I texted Lana, ready to sign temporary access and hand over my husband's coin rolls if we handle it now. I have cash. Money is the best loudspeaker. While I waited, an old man wrestled a payment into the kiosk. His envelope crackled. The bill edge kept catching. I smoothed the corner for him. The machine finally took it, chirped, and spat a receipt. He nodded thanks. His keychain shook, a brass tag like the ones our drivers carried when they came off the road. That small gesture grounded me better than any prayer. Lana arrived fast, alone. Track jacket? That smile like a bandage. We'll fix it. I took her elbow and kept my tone flat. One condition. We start with your unit. Show me how you keep my things safe. Her body answered before her brain. She pulled the fob and lifted the door. Metal scraped like a rusty lid. Inside, my cases and other people's boxes. Kitchen, medicine, school, winter. She saw my face, no surprise, and tried to slam the door. The officer stepped up, even voice, badge visible. Allison clicked her recorder and opened a folder. We're documenting. Lana fractured quickly. But Cameron slid out from the next row, heat-seeking trouble. He spoke louder, throwing out family business and dirty laundry. I didn't answer. Behind him, the body cam blinked red. He realized the rules too late. As the officer logged items, Lana started to pour words faster than thought. He set it up. The stamps are a service. Chris only needed utilities. I wrote the notes in my head. Names, dates, amounts. The picture drew itself like a highway map, where they blocked my lane, where they took an exit. At one point, she tried to press a folded check into my hand, a reflex born from 1,000 small expedites. I slid it back into her pocket. I don't need your gas, I said. She did not try again. By the gate, a forklift lifted a pallet and stalled in a turn. A mini jam bloomed. Beep, hand waves, grumbles. In that pause, a woman in her 70s stepped from a distant unit with a tiny dog in a carrier. She glanced at my case and recognized the sticker from the tool store where her husband used to buy parts. Our eyes met. The feeling hit hard and clean. This wasn't just my room they'd taken. It was a web of rooms. My anger cooled into something narrow and sharp. Metal meant to cut. That evening, we were in the county courthouse. Connor's niece carried a tight packet. Motion to terminate guardianship. The independent examiner's letter. The inventory from the unit. A request to seal and preserve the recording. The judge read, asked, decided. The order for temporary guardianship was lifted. A separate investigation opened on the notary stamps. I breathed like a driver cresting a long grade. There's flat road on the other side. By the door, Chris waited, pale and soft around the eyes. He opened his mouth. I raised a palm. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., keys, no speeches. Not anger, procedure. Dispatch rules never fail me. That night, I cleaned the kitchen like steel before surgery. The house smelled like cleaner and quiet I could live with. I set the jar of screws on the counter, perched the owl bank on the shelf, and pulled my husband's old garage plan from the drawer. For a moment, the lights blinked off. Line work somewhere up the block. I stood still, counting to 10 the way I taught rookies when headlights died in the rain. Lights on again. In my pad, set piece complete. Next, paper war. And then, under it, the true price. Cost, my son. Morning was dry and simple. Chris arrived on time. In his palm, new keys and old keys. He set them on the table. Mom, I stopped him. Wait, this isn't a talk. It's a procedure. I laid out the papers. An agreement for a partial waiver of inheritance in exchange for paying his debts. Mandatory enrollment in a financial responsibility program, and a hard ban on any powers of attorney in my name, and a draft trust for the house. I stay as lifetime beneficiary. After me, it goes to a community fund with a no resale clause. The HOA can frown all it likes. Legally, it's clean. He read and went pale. You're taking my house. I braced my hands on the table. I'm taking back access to my life. The house will go where no one can squeeze it for cash. You'll get what won't destroy you. Training for a new trade, a month of support, a grocery card for 3 months, a budget mentor. Your choice. He whispered. It isn't fair. Fair is when the cut is straight, I said. He understood the bargaining was over. While he read, I thought of my talk with May Connor the day before. We set up a supported decision-making agreement. Not guardianship, but a rule I chose. For any transaction above a set amount, I invite someone I trust to sit beside me. We wrote in Mrs. Albie and Nan, two women who won't take anything from me but an invitation to share tea and quiet. Sometimes the system can be tuned without a crowbar. Lana gave a statement against Cameron. She got probation and community service, sorting donations at a church warehouse by the highway. Fitting, moving boxes after a year of taking them. The notary's office was shut. That stamp had already raised questions in 2 nearby counties. Allison sent a short list of 3 seniors who had spent nights in motels after being temporarily protected from their own money. I called each one and made a route. Tuesday, Mr. H and his tool collection. Thursday, Mrs. D and the boxes marked winter. Saturday, a retired medic who'd lost documents. I drove the interstate, the gray lanes, the signs, the diner at the exit, and delivered people their spoons. In every home, there was a place the spoon fit exactly. I left a box, marked delivered, and moved on. It was my way to give myself back my trade, a dispatcher who took the wheel for a while. 2 weeks later, the doctor's letter came. A light tremor in my right hand, sleep schedule, pills, follow-ups. I read it 3 times. For the first time in months, something clicked inside me that wasn't anger, but clarity. I'd won the case. I'd lost the fantasy of endless strength. That was our unexpected turn. Not letters or embraces, but a limit I could name. I called Connor's niece and signed a narrow medical proxy only for hospital emergencies, keeping everything else in my hands. Boundaries aren't walls, they're roots. Chris didn't sign right away. He disappeared for a week. Then he came back and knocked. Quiet. His eyes looked like a dry field. I didn't know they'd go that far, he said. I thought you'd forget. I looked at him and remembered sticky fingers from ice cream, sneakers dumped in the hall. You wanted me to forget. That's different. He said nothing. I handed him a pen. He signed. I didn't hug him, not out of spite, because love is sometimes a line on the ground. We set a routine. Fridays at the cafe by the wholesale lot, 40 minutes, check split down the middle. Procedure can be medicine. The HOA sent a sour letter about the ribbon on my tree and unapproved landscaping. I smiled and mailed back a copy of the trust with the public benefit clause. Their irritation broke on the page. I planted a young elm by the steps and tied the trunk with a red ribbon, the lanyard that once held my keys. The owl bank took its place in the kitchen. In a new pad, I wrote on page 1, Boundaries, check and care. Below it, a list of people still waiting for their spoons. 4 addresses, 2 phone numbers, 1 storage yard. Sometimes at night, I hear the long haulers on the interstate and imagine that every trailer holds small rooms made of cardboard and string. I smile, a short grown-up smile, and turn off the light. Everything in my house has a place. My keys are where they belong. My home is no longer bait for temporary guardians. It's a destination. I'm sender, receiver, and dispatcher. And if a new envelope shows up tomorrow, stamped urgent, my route is already drawn. Call, record, deliver. One more rule now, too. On the big jobs, I have my people beside me. That's not weakness. That's how you set a convoy before a long road.